Hey everyone, Tony Vlahos here for ExecuNet. I'm talking to Doug Sundheim. Doug, of course, is a CEO advisor, leadership consultant, author of the book, Taking Smart Risks. Have I left anything out?
A lot of things, but that's probably good enough for the crowd.
Okay, cool. So today we're going to talk, in fact, about taking smart risks. And we're going to start, Doug, with questions around individual executive careers. And let's kick it off with, is caution killing executives' careers? What do you think of that?
I don't know that any different than it always has. I think that caution will kill anyone's career. Too much caution will kill anyone's career. And in the same token, too much risk will kill anyone's career, which is why I wrote a book called Taking Smart Risks. And so I always think about risk taking as, if you think of a bell curve, you got to find the center. If you don't take enough, you're not going to grow. If you take too many dumb risks, you're going to blow up. So how do you find that middle curve? So I think that anyone who is not taking enough, they're too far on the left of that bell, it'll kill their career. It will. And so that's the message that I espouse everywhere I go. And I think it's an important one now and always.
Now, do you find in working with chief executives or anyone at that senior management level that they have a tough time choosing which risks to take? Is that a hard one to figure out for your individual career?
Yeah, I think it can be tough for people to figure out which risks they want to take. Sometimes the market forces your hand, and so you have to take certain risks on the business side. But on the career side, if you're in a big company, you can get lulled into what I would call a false sense of security. Big revenue streams, and I'm managing this thing and these people, and it seems it'll just keep going on and on and on. But the reality is that's not how the world works, and we're all very aware of that. So as you look at what risks should I take, what risks should I not take, it's a hard question to answer in a vacuum, but you really need to sit back and think about, where do I want to go, what do I want to create, and use those vision sorts of questions to help you ferret out what are the right risks and what are the wrong risks to take.
So one of the toughest interview questions anyone who's been through the process has experienced is, of course, are you a risk taker? How should an executive think about that answer before they answer that question?
Well, I think the answer to that question is different depending on the industry. If you're interviewing for a chief position as a safety engineer, you probably don't want to answer. You're a big risk taker. But I think that sometimes people overthink that question. An interviewer is asking you pretty much, do you take initiative? Do you make things happen? Are you able to make things happen? And that's the question that I would answer. Are you a risk taker? Can you get into academic questions of risk profile and psychology? And I don't think that's what people really want to know. They want to know, can you make something happen? And so what I always tell someone who's in a position like that is, tell stories about when you made stuff happen. That's always a risk. You do that.
Great. I think another concern that a lot of executives have, and again, we're talking about people who've been in role for 20, 30, 40 years, and then suddenly they want to do something different with their careers, different career path, change positions, change industries. So the question is someone ever too old to take career risks?
Yeah. I would say no. No one's ever too old to take risks. I think that smart risk taking is the spice of life, and I always underline smart in that situation. Dumb risk taking sometimes will lead you to very bad situations. So it's often the opposite of the spice of life. But, I think that if you look at people who stay invigorated in their careers for, you said 40 years, 50 years, I don't know all their stories, but if I were going to bet on it, they weren't doing the same thing all the time. They were finding new ways, even if it was small ways. Maybe they weren't blowing up their whole, current career path and going down something totally different, but they're finding small ways to mix it up, to change, new customers, new products, new ways of going about the business. Always keep it interesting. You have to remember, those things are risks too. We always like to think of risks as jumping out of planes, betting the farm on a big company idea, leveraging and taking on a big debt to go in this direction. But it's small product innovation, small ways of re-engaging customers. Those are risks too, and I think people have to think of them that way, and that adds spice.
So I think kind of implicit in what you're saying is don't develop a taste for the bland. I mean, spice might feel not so good in the tummy at a certain point in your career, but I think what your advice is you really can't lose the flavor for that spice. Otherwise, what brought you there will not keep you going.
Right, won't keep you going. The line that I always use with people, when you think about taking a risk, we often think about what are the costs of that risk. And we think about the loss of certainty and control and comfort that we might encounter if we take a risk. But a question that I always ask is, what might you lose if you don't take the risk? And it's, when I talk about doing a cost-benefit analysis, and this is one of the concepts you go over in my book, but I talk about doing a 4-box cost-benefit analysis. We often do cost-benefit, take the risk. Well, the cost of taking the risk, I'll lose these things, but the benefits, I could gain all these other things. And I say do 4-box, which is do a cost-benefit on taking the risk, but do a cost-benefit on not taking the risk. And there's 1 box in there, the cost of not taking the risk, that I think people don't do enough time reflecting on. And when they do, what they tend to find, because they project themselves out into the future, is that the costs that I might incur by not taking the risks are that loss of the spice, loss of feeling engagement, loss of feeling alive. These are core existential things that we all want to feel. And if we bring that accounting into the present moment, we realize that if we account for that, I think more people would be inclined to find little ways to take those risks. So it's, I think, a really important mindset. What are the costs of not risking?
Yeah, really good advice.
Yeah.